What should you expect during a building inspection? Surprisingly, the building inspector is going to start with the most amount of time outside. They're looking at all the stuff that keeps the weather out. They're looking at your roof, at your siding, at the structure, any signs of rot or damage. These are things that we can look for before we put a house on the market, or when we're at a showing, we can spend time outside checking these things out too. But again, if you're going to need a new roof or if there's structural damage, that's going to be a big deal once you buy a house. After the outside, an inspector often spends the most amount of time in the basement because that's where a lot of the systems that affect a house are going to be. It's where your heating system is, you've got plumbing, you've got the output to the septic or the sewer line. If you have a septic system, there might be a septic inspection, and sometimes it's the same inspector, sometimes it's a different inspector. Our team uses some experts that only do septic systems to make sure that they look and we know exactly what you're getting and what condition it's in when you buy. If it's a sewer line and it goes out to the public sewer, oftentimes we'll want to run a camera through that line because you own from the house to the street. And if there are any breakages in that pipe, if it's sagging, if it needs to be replaced, you're the one that's responsible for that. And we want to make sure we know what it's like. After those systems, they'll check the electrical, they'll check the windows, they'll go up and down, they'll get into the attic. And by the way, if it's just a scuttle hole, well, you know, one of those square little hatches that are in your closet, well, even if it's just insulation, we'll want to make sure the inspector's taking a look to make sure there's not mold or water damage or some hidden defect hiding in there. An inspection's really about what we don't know when we're just walking through and doing a showing on the house, because we want to make sure you know what you're getting. A general building inspection will take somewhere between 2 to 3 hours. If it's a small house, it might be shorter. If it's a large house or an old house or a complicated property, it might take longer. But it's really being done in the interest of making sure that there's full information so that the price and the deal reflects what someone is actually selling and what someone is actually buying. The great thing about working with an experienced team like ours is we have relationships with building inspectors and we have relationships with contractors that can get things done in a timely manner, and we can make sure that we keep a deal together if anything comes up. So if you're thinking about working with a realtor, make sure you ask, what vendor relationships do you have and how are you going to keep my deal together once it's negotiated?